There are moments in NASCAR that feel bigger than just a single race result or a single decision. This is one of those moments. What is happening right now in this sport is not just one story. It is three different stories, all tied together, and each one hits a little differently depending on how you look at it. There is something going on behind the scenes that has fans divided, that has people questioning certain decisions, and that is honestly raising a much bigger conversation about what NASCAR really wants its future to look like. The crazy part is that depending on where you stand, this could either be exactly the right call or one of the biggest missed opportunities the sport has had in years. We are going to break it all down, step by step, what just happened, what it actually means, and why this whole situation might be a lot bigger than it looks on the surface. But before we get into it, if you are a true NASCAR fan who actually lives this sport week after week and wants real, honest conversation about it, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. We are brand new and we are pushing hard toward 15,000 subscribers. This is a community built around real talk, fan to fan. No fluff, no corporate spin, just honest NASCAR conversation. If that sounds like your kind of place, hit subscribe and come be part of it. Now let us get into this because it is worth every minute. This whole situation revolves around one name that a lot of people did not expect to find at the center of NASCAR headlines like this. That name is Cleetus McFarland, whose real name is Garrett Mitchell. Here's what went down. Cleetus had been working toward running the NASCAR O'Reilly Auto Parts Series race at Talladega Superspeedway later this month. He was set to drive a Chevrolet for Richard Childress Racing, which is not a small deal. That is a real team with real history in this sport. And Talladega is not just any racetrack. It is one of the fastest, most intense, most unpredictable superspeedways in all of motorsports. Getting approved to race there is a significant step for any driver, let alone someone still working their way up through the ranks. But NASCAR stepped in and said no. They officially denied his approval to compete in superspeedway races in the O'Reilly Series, at least for now. And the timing of that decision came directly off the back of his debut race at Rockingham Speedway, where things did not go smoothly by any measure. At Rockingham, Cleetus finished 32nd and ended the race 6 laps down from the winner, William Sawalich. But it was not just the finishing position that raised concerns. During the race itself, he had multiple incidents. He spun out more than once. He attempted a 3-wide move early on, got loose, and from that point on, the night became very hectic and difficult to manage. He even admitted himself that he nearly lost control of the car several times throughout the race. To his credit, Cleetus did not hide from any of it. He went straight to his fans afterward and called NASCAR's decision a kick in the teeth, which is an understandable reaction, but he also owned the situation completely. He said plainly that he has a lot to learn. And honestly, that kind of self-awareness and honesty matters a lot. It tells you that he understands exactly where he is in this process, and he is not trying to pretend otherwise. NASCAR made their position very clear through John Probst, who serves as Executive Vice President and Chief Racing Development Officer. He was straightforward about the fact that this is not personal. NASCAR is not trying to shut Cleetus out or send a message. They said openly that they are fans of what he has done, and they appreciate the audience he brings to the sport. But the key part of their message was this: they need to see more from him before they can put him in a superspeedway environment like Talladega. And if you understand what Talladega actually is, that reasoning is hard to argue with. That track runs pack racing at speeds close to 200 miles per hour. Cars are inches apart from each other for the entire race. One mistake doesn't just take out the driver who made it. One mistake at Talladega can wipe out half the field in a single moment. It's the kind of place where even the most experienced drivers in the world have gotten caught up in massive crashes through no real fault of their own. NASCAR is essentially saying to Cleetus, prove yourself on shorter tracks first. Right now, he is fully approved to run in ARCA, the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series, and O'Reilly Series short track events. The door is not closed, it's just not open all the way yet. When you look at his experience level, the decision starts to make a lot of sense even if it stings. He has only one Truck Series start to his name, which came at Daytona International Speedway earlier this season and ended in a crash on lap 6, leaving him in last place. In ARCA, though, that is where the picture looks more promising. He has 2 top 10 finishes across 5 starts, including a 4th-place result in the ARCA Menard Series East race at Rockingham just last weekend. That 4th-place finish shows there is real potential there. There is something to work with. But at the national NASCAR level, he is genuinely still figuring it out, and he knows it. He has said himself that he needs more windshield time, more laps, more variety, more experience sitting in a race car across different types of tracks and series before he should be anywhere near a place like Daytona or Talladega. That is not defeat, that is honesty, and it is exactly the right mindset to have at this stage. Now here is where the story gets a lot more interesting, because this is not just about one driver being told to slow down and earn his spot. This decision connects to a much bigger conversation about what NASCAR is and what it is trying to become. Cletus McFarland is not just another rookie driver working his way up through the developmental ranks. This is a man with over 4.7 million YouTube subscribers. He has built a massive, loyal, and genuinely passionate audience that NASCAR has been trying to figure out how to reach for years. And alongside him, you have Squirrel McNutt, whose real name is George Siciliano, also building his own following and stepping into ARCA competition. Together, these two represent something that does not come from traditional motorsport pipelines. They bring raw personality, authentic connection with their audience, and they are pulling in a younger crowd that has never really engaged with NASCAR before. To put the scale of it into perspective, Cletus alone is pulling viewership numbers that rival major NASCAR race broadcasts across different series. His audience is comparable to what some Daytona races draw. When you sit with that for a second, it is genuinely remarkable. And people inside the sport are starting to ask a very serious question. Is this what the future of NASCAR looks like? You even had Greg Biffle, a longtime Cup Series veteran who had been mentoring Cletus before his tragic passing. That connection alone shows how seriously this transition into NASCAR racing had been taken. This was not just a YouTube star showing up for attention. There was real work going into making this a legitimate racing career. But the reality check is just as important as the excitement. The learning curve in NASCAR is brutal, and it does not make exceptions for anyone, no matter how big their platform is. Cletus has fewer than 500 combined laps across ARCA and the Truck Series. For context, drivers who make it to the Cup Series level have usually spent years grinding through the lower series, collecting thousands of laps, learning every track, learning how to manage tires and fuel and traffic, and all the small details that separate competitive drivers from the rest of the field. Less than 500 laps is truly the very beginning of that journey. The same applies to Squirrel McNutt. His ARCA East debut showed exactly how steep this climb really is. He was multiple laps down, still adjusting, still trying to understand what the car is doing and why. The hype around both of these guys is real, but so is the challenge in front of them. NASCAR is caught right now trying to balance two things that do not always pull in the same direction. On one side, you have massive exposure, new fans, fresh energy, and personalities that connect with people outside the traditional NASCAR audience in a way the sport has not seen in a long time. On the other side, you have safety, competitive integrity, and the responsibility that comes with putting drivers in environments where mistakes can have serious consequences for everyone on the track. That tension is exactly why this decision is so hard to evaluate cleanly. Depending on how you look at it, NASCAR either protected the sport and made the responsible call, or they pumped the brakes on something that could have genuinely helped the sport grow in a new direction. And that brings everything to the biggest picture of all. This moment says a lot about where NASCAR is right now as a sport. You have drivers like Tyler Reddick, Ryan Blaney, Denny Hamlin, and Chase Elliott leading the standings and representing the competitive core of what NASCAR racing is at its highest level. These are the drivers who have earned their spots through years of development, sacrifice, and performance. At the same time, you have personalities like Cletus and Squirrel bringing in a completely different type of fan, people who maybe never watched a full race before, but who are now paying attention because of someone they already follow and trust. NASCAR has to figure out how those two worlds come together without one undermining the other. Because the truth is, racing on its own is not enough to grow an audience in today's world. Fans connect with people. They want authenticity. They want drivers they can actually relate to, not just polished press conference answers and sponsored talking points. That is part of why certain drivers who showed real personality used to stand out so much before things became more controlled and managed. And it is exactly what Cletus represents, whether you are a fan of him or not. He is genuine. His audience follows him because they feel like they know him. And that kind of connection is genuinely rare and genuinely valuable. So maybe he is not ready for Talladega yet, and by most honest measures, he's clearly not. But the bigger question is what happens when he is. Because if Cletus McFarland puts in the work, improves his craft, earns his way through the developmental series the right way, and eventually gets approved for a superspeedway start, that moment is going to be enormous. The audience watching that race will include millions of people who have never cared about NASCAR before. That is not something this sport can afford to ignore or push away. That is an opportunity most sports would do almost anything to create. This decision does not end anything. It simply delays it. Cletus is still racing. He is still learning. NASCAR made it completely clear that they are watching and that the path is open to him if he earns it. So now it falls on him to take this moment, absorb what it is telling him, and come back with more experience and more confidence in the car. The passion is clearly there. You can see it in how he talks about racing, in how honest he was with his fans after a tough night at Rockingham, and in the fact that he keeps showing up and keeps trying to get better. But passion alone does not keep you safe at nearly 200 miles per hour in a pack of 40 cars. Experience does, and experience takes time, full stop. Looking at both sides honestly, NASCAR made the responsible call here. You simply cannot send someone to Talladega without enough experience under their belt. That track does not forgive mistakes, and far more experienced drivers than Cletus McFarland have ended up in some of the most frightening crashes this sport has ever seen there. Safety has to come first, regardless of how big the name is or how many people are watching. That is not a flexible position. But the other side is real too. NASCAR has been looking for new energy and new audiences for a long time, and right now, Cletus is delivering exactly that. Millions of people are engaged because of him. That cannot just be waved away. The key is going to be what comes next. If Cletus goes out, runs more ARCA races, runs more Truck Series races, shows clear improvement, and demonstrates that he is genuinely ready for the next step, then this whole situation is going to look like exactly the right process. It will mean he was built up correctly, and that when he does finally get to a Daytona or Talladega, he will actually be prepared for it. But if NASCAR drags its feet even after he proves himself and demonstrates real growth, that is when the conversation needs to change. Because this sport needs what he brings, not just the racing ability, but the connection with fans that no marketing budget can manufacture. This is a long game. Cletus said so himself. He needs more windshield time, and that is simply the truth of where he is right now. The talent may well be there. The passion absolutely is. But experience is the one thing in NASCAR that you cannot skip, cannot buy, and cannot borrow. You have to go out and earn every single lap of it. And when he does eventually earn that superspeedway start and lines up at Daytona or Talladega with everything he has learned behind him, that moment is going to mean something far beyond just a race result. It is going to represent what kind of future NASCAR is actually choosing to build for itself. That is why this story matters so much. It's not about one race being denied. It's about what direction this sport is heading and who gets to be part of that journey. If you enjoy honest conversations like this one, make sure you hit like and subscribe to NASCAR Nation Report. We are new, we are growing, and we are pushing toward 15,000 subscribers. This is a space built for real NASCAR fans who want real opinions without the spin. Drop your thoughts in the comments and let us know where you stand. Did NASCAR make the right call keeping Cletus out of Talladega, or should they have let him go for it? We want to hear from you.